Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. My guest today is Alan Dunstan, Chairman of the Board of Madison County, Illinois. Mr. Dunstan was the first chairman to be elected at large by the voters of Madison County. Before that, chairmen were elected by the board itself. Chairman Dunstan was re-elected in November 2008 and is seeking another four-year term at the November 2012 election. Mr. Dunstan has written the following: Madison County is now virtually debt-free. The county's portion of the property tax bill has fallen to approximately 8% of the tax bill. The chairman and several other county leaders did not take pay increases scheduled to take effect in December of 2011. Today we're going to discuss the condition of Madison County, Illinois, and what the future holds. Alan Dunstan, welcome to Conversation.
Thank you, Lee. Nice to be here.
It's good to talk to you again. Let's go back to your written statements that about the property tax bill. What is it that you're talking about there?
Okay, basically, I've been in Madison County since 1980, and when I took office as a county board member at that time in 1980, Madison County was about 14% of a tax bill. Now, the number is actually closer to 9% than 8%, but we're basically 9% of a tax bill today. I think if you look at the last 10 years and you add up all the different forms of units of government like townships, library districts, park districts, cities, you name it, schools, Madison County has had the smallest levy increases than any of them in the last 10 years. And I don't just take credit for myself on this. I have a very good board. I think what sets us apart is, I think, for the most part, you have Democrats and Republicans that work together trying to solve problems and that. I think we've been very frugal with the money. Our tax rate has gone down substantially, and as the assessed valuation has gone up, people, the portion that they pay to county taxes has actually been decreased compared to other districts.
What would you say are the most important things that the county board has accomplished in the last, say, 2 years?
First off, we've had to make, we all know we're, in 2012 we have economic problems today. I think probably the number one thing is working together across party lines to solve problems. I look at what's happening on the federal level. I look at what happens on the state level, and you have both parties. I think there's blame for both parties. They just don't seem to be able to get the job done. We've been able to work together as a team in Madison County. I have roughly 235 less employees today than when I took office as a Madison County Board Chairman 9.5 years ago. Now, that's not something to be proud of, but we've had situations where we've had layoffs. We've had through attrition where we have less employment with Madison County. We used to have over 1,071 employees. We're down to about 920 or so. I don't have the exact figures, but we've made the necessary cuts. When we came into this situation, we made the necessary cuts that to looking for the future. And I think right now we had our budget meeting this morning, first budget meeting for the 2013 budget. I don't see layoffs in the future. This next year, we might through attrition might lose a few positions throughout the year, but I think we're set financially better than any other county in the state of Illinois. I really do believe that we're in a better financial situation today than I've ever seen it as a county, as being involved in the county since 1980. Well, and that's because we made tough decisions.
During this period of shortage, have you been able to keep up with infrastructure so that it is not deteriorating?
Yes, the highway department infrastructure have been okay on. We are getting to the point now where there's a few positions, like a few departments that we deal with that it really is tough to lay off anyone else because we do have a function to fulfill.
Right. I'm referring. Are the roads the ones that the county controls?
Yeah.
Are the roads being maintained?
Yeah, the roads are doing fine.
In the winter, are you able to put salt down and clear the roads?
That is correct. Those vital services are still there. Our public safety has not been cut that much, so we still have the sheriff's department, things of that nature. The one area that's a little concerned with me is a state function, that's probation funding. We always have to lobby the state of Illinois to make sure they put money in for probation, because that is a very important aspect to keep people on probation. You have to keep an eye on some people. That's a very important step or important process that we have to go through. But overall, we've been able to maintain the services that we've used to have and continue to go. One thing I'm going to mention, that our budget today, or the budget for the year 2013 that we discussed today, is at the same spending levels that we had back in 2006. So I mean, it's a very tight budget, and we've streamlined a lot of expenditures. We've used the IS, Department of Information Systems, to technology to try to do things a little bit more efficient, less paperwork. Overall, I think we have a very strong county.
Who represents Madison County in the Illinois Senate?
We have a couple. You have Kyle McCarter, who is in my area, and then you have Bill Hain, represents most of Madison County. And I think the McCain, Senator McCain, has just a little small portion of it. And I believe that's like Livingston area.
And do you know how many state representatives are throughout the county?
I would say you have about 5 or 6 state representatives.
And do you speak with all of these state reps and state senators on a somewhat regular basis?
I go up to a lot of times when it comes up to Springfield. I go up to Springfield. I talk to both sides, and I think I have a very good working relationship with almost every state senator and state representative that represents the Madison County area. I know the state's a little different. They're a little bit more political up there on the state level than we are on the county level. I have a rule that right after we get done with the elections, and I would meet with a new county board member, the first thing I say to that county board member, the first thing that comes out of my mouth, forget if you're a Democrat or Republican. We work together here in Madison County, and for the most part, we've been able to do that. I think when we had a board member named Doc Weingard, who represented Troy, was a Republican, and we had got off the board, he wrote a real nice letter, and one of his quotes in that letter was saying is that the state of Illinois and the federal level can take lessons from the way Madison County operates.
Well, that's what
I do believe that.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you is, have you encouraged these state officials that represent Madison County to perhaps perform their functions in Springfield in a way similar to the Madison County government performs its function, and to change their spending habits to match what Madison County is doing?
One thing I see with our contingent here in Madison County, both Democrat and Republicans, and I'll give you an issue, like when we had the levy issue. That was one of those perfect textbook cases of how local government got together to try to help. We protect 156,000 people, all the $55,000 jobs. The levy is, of course, to keep it from flooding. When that came up, that was a teamwork, both Democrat and Republicans working together. And I'll never forget this, when we had Senator Frank Watson at that time, Senator Bill Hain, Senator Dan Beiser, Representative Dan Beiser, Representative Ron Stevens. Both parties worked together to get things done. So I think locally they do work pretty well together. Another point that I'll make too is on a federal level, when we was dealing with the levies, John Shimkus, Republican congressman, and Jerry Costello, Democratic congressman, would work very well together on issues that affected Madison County or the Metro East area. And sometimes I think it's good if you have that bipartisan support on a state level and on a national level. It helps the county also. But locally, I can talk to both parties. It's a little bit more politically, the atmosphere in Springfield and the atmosphere in Washington, D.C. is a lot different than it is locally. And I don't know enough about the atmosphere or why it's like that. But when you get locally, you really, the party ID doesn't make that much of a difference. And I know that you have leadership up in Springfield, you have leadership up in Washington, D.C., and there's, everybody's got 24/7 news now, and everybody wants to get that 15-second soundbite. It's really hard to get people working together. And I wish they would work a lot better together like we do in Madison County. You would have to talk to them on how to get that done. Your workers get pensions, right?
Yes. Okay. What is your pension system compared to the problem pension system for the state, which is causing,
Okay.
untold deficits?
First off, the pensions that we have in Madison County are the IMRF, which is the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, that is totally opposite or totally diverse from the state of Illinois. The last figures I heard is our pensions are about 92% funded compared to maybe 35% funding for the state of Illinois. The difference between IMRF and the state of Illinois is Madison County and municipalities, they have to put in their share of the contribution as we go throughout the year. Well, if you go back in the state of Illinois history, both parties, it wasn't a Democratic problem, wasn't a Republican problem. Both parties kept kicking the can down the road and not putting the state portion of the pension for their pension system into the fund. And now you have a situation where you're getting close to going off a cliff, and everyone's concerned about the pensions and pension liabilities. Now, I want to make one distinction too. If you look at our comprehensive report, it shows you like a $45 million line item for pensions. What that reflects is if Madison County decided to get out of the pension system day one, tomorrow, which we can't do, you cannot do that, but if we had to get out of the pension system, we would owe $45 million to this fund to provide the pensions they're already paid into, okay? But the way this is set up is kind of like having a mortgage. If you buy a house and you owe $45 million on your house, you're going to make payments on that house. You could always pay it off if you wanted to, but you're going to make payments on that house. Madison County makes those payments, okay, to the pension fund. We have never missed a payment. In fact, we'll probably be reducing what we put into IMRF because we're actually getting a surplus in the IMRF fund. So our funds are pretty solid. Our pensions are pretty well solved. One other thing that's happened with the pension system is the state of Illinois has passed a new pension, which is a two-tier system. So if you started employment with Madison County back after January 1st, 2011, you're under a different tier pension than the previous employees. And down the line, we figured that's going to save the county within 10 years probably $1 million a year because they've changed they made it where you retire at a later date, and I think instead of being based on the last 48 years, I mean 48 months, I think is based on the last 96 months. So I mean it's going to be it's not going to be as good of a pension. The early retirement or the 67 is the to get to the most retirement to 75%. So there's going to be savings, and we were part of that system. So the pensions in Madison County have already been, looked into. They're not the same. We don't have the ECHO, which is the county elected officials pension, and you probably remember those pensions where you had people that would, work for a county government making $10,000 a year and get elected to higher office and get 80% of the higher office. We're out of that pension. We don't have ECHO anymore. We just have the regular IMRF pension. And that's, by the way, both Democrats and Republicans working together try to reform the pension system in Madison County.
With interest rates as low as they are, when you put your money in, where is it being put and how is it earning more? How is it earning any money?
That's a question that you would have to ask.
And I don't want
treasurer.
I don't want an actuary response, just basic.
We had a situation where we had bonds. And I know you're probably going to see another guest here shortly, but we had a situation where we had bonds that were step rate bonds. And we were making 2.7% interest on those bonds. And a decision was made to sell those bonds, which I was opposed to. We lost $360,000 on the sale of bonds, and so far, all those bonds have been claimed. We lost over $1 million total on the sale of those bonds, and a lot of that money that we were making 2.7% interest was reinvested and making 0.3% interest, and I had a problem with that. I understand that. I feel sorry for families that are on fixed income. It's really hard to go out and get a good interest rate now. But I think we need to maybe have an investment professional, which I think we had in a previous treasurer's administration, which was let go. And I'm not sure what we're making on our investments now, but it's nothing like what we used to make. And the sad thing about that is if you don't make interest income, that hurts you as far as what you assess for in property taxes. We try to keep the property taxes down. If we can invest and make more interest money, we keep our rates down. And that's what our goals would be. But that's something that you would have to ask the treasurer as far as how he invests his monies today.
But in terms of your pension funding, the money where is that what you're talking about? The money from the pension fund, you're putting X number of dollars per year into a pension fund. A number of years ago, you were getting, well, I remember when we were earning 7 and 8% on cash, right?
Yeah.
Those days are gone. It is closer to 0.2 or 0.3% is what's being earned.
Here's a little fact about IMRF pensions. First off, they're 92% pension, 92% funded as of right now. Now, when the stock market went down, a lot of the money in the pension funds is invested, in the stock market. Of course, they probably went down. I'm not sure what it went down to, but like 55, 60% for IMRF. And then IMRF would come up and they would, the county would have to pay a little bit more into the pension system. Well, the reason we might have a little bit more of a surplus now is the stock market's been going back up. About 2/3 of what the pension funds, or if you provided a pension through the county, 2/3 of your pension is made up of earnings on the investments that have been made. The rest is a combination that the employee pays 4.5%, and I think our county pays 9%. Today that goes into the pension fund. But once again, 2/3 of the money that's being paid out in the pensions is money that's earned. But when you had the 4 years ago, when you had the stock market that took a really big dive, we had to make an adjustment, in the county when IMRF, sent us, like this is what you need to be paying in to secure your pension funds. We made those payments. Now we're to the point now because of the stock market going up a little bit, we might have actually a little surplus in IMRF, and we're looking at maybe even keeping it the same or cutting back a little bit. So, and here's another little thing too about our pensions, having less employees. We have 235 less employees, so you're not making pension benefits to those employees. You're not making that payment for those employees. So overall, the county is pretty, secure on their pensions. Where the state of Illinois has a problem is they did not, the state, I feel sorry for the employees because the employees put in what they were supposed to put in. I want to make sure everybody understands that. If you were a school teacher, the teacher always put their share in. It was the state of Illinois that kept kicking the can down the road, not putting their share in. Now they're sitting in a situation where there's no easy answers. There is no easy answers. And they kept putting a problem down there. Now it's a problem that's so hard to take care of. I'm not sure how they're going to do it.
Yeah, well, that's going to be discussed, but I don't really want to get into the state issues here in the discussion with you, but that seems to me a discussion for state senate races, state reps races, and for a governor's race to make these higher decisions as to which way the public wants to go. And yet I don't really see the public as directing their government. It's almost like, well, they're just laying back, well, here's what you're getting, instead of being the boss and saying, this is what we want, who can we hire that will accomplish that?
Well, of course, we're sitting here at an election, and the John Q. Public has the opportunity to elect, state senators and state reps to serve what they think they should have. I think in a state level and a federal level, and I've been very point blank about this, I think there's enough blame to go around for both parties. The first governor that did not put in money into the pension system was a Republican governor. Thompson. So it kept going down, and this has been going on for years. And they really, it's a very complex problem. They really need to start learning to work together. And I think our local legislators understand that. I mean, if you talk to Bill Hayne, he says nice things about his Republican colleagues locally, and vice versa the other way. I think our state reps, state senators locally get along very well, both parties. But once again, it's the atmosphere up there. And I'm glad I'm not up there. I mean, I like doing what I'm doing. I really love being county board chairman. I'm glad I'm not in Springfield. I'm glad I'm not in Washington, D.C. I have no aspirations to go up there.
Well, you're part of the state, or your county, Madison County. When you first came to the board, it was basically a Democrat board. I believe that there was like one Republican. I agree. Homer Henke years ago.
I think we had two. I think it was James Howell too. But I remember when it was 27-2.
Right.
Today,
and things have changed.
Today we
right?
have 1910. You have 19 Democrats, 10 Republicans, and another big change, and I don't have the exact number, but I remember when it was all men on the county board. Every single board member, 29 board members were men. I'm going to say we're at least over half or close to half with women on the board today, which I think is good. I do believe in a two-party system. I think there's what I see on a federal level and on a state level is that's wrong. Okay, and it is, and I don't know, it is a very strange situation. We learn to get together locally and we compromise. Compromise is not a dirty word. You know, you have to be able to get in there, and when I present a budget or when I work with a budget, I might not get 100% of what I want. My colleagues on the other side of the fence might not get 100% of what they want, but when you look at the picture as a whole, it's serving the public. Somehow we live in a society today that compromise is a dirty word, and I think that's what's affecting both Springfield and the federal level more than anything else, is that nobody's willing to work with the other side.
Well, what do you attribute the change in the makeup of the board? You're a member of the Democrat Party.
That is correct.
What do you attribute this change, where it was almost all Democrats in Madison County, and now it's not quite half and half, but at least, you know, 2/3, 1/3?
Sure. I still think we're probably, I'm going to take a guess, maybe about 55% Democratic as a county. What you've seen is, you know, our Collar County areas, you know, the Granite City, you know, the Alton area has basically lost some population. We have a lot of growth areas, you know, City of Troy is a growth area, Maryville, Glen Carbon, all those areas that are growing are you know, bigger homes and stuff. You just see people moving from the west to the eastern part of the county.
Godfrey.
Plus Godfrey. Plus we've had a lot of people move into the county. And you know, Scott Air Force Base, you know, has expanded, and a lot of military people vote the Republican faith, you know, and you see a lot of that changing. You know, that's not all bad. I mean, our county is a very diverse county. You know, it's you know, we still have a lot of rural areas, we still have a lot of farmers, you know, but you know, manufacturing hopefully will come back a little bit. We lost a lot of manufacturing jobs. We've gone to more of a service industry. I mean, there has been change. Demographics have changed for Madison County just like they have all over the country. And one thing that's good about this area is Granite City Steel's come back. We have the Phillips 66 has actually expanded, which has been very helpful to our area. So we have a lot of good things going on. We haven't been hit, I don't think, with the recession as bad as most areas have been hit because of the Phillips 66, ConocoPhillips at that time, and then the coke plant down in Granite City. Plus, I don't know if you're familiar with the Gateway Center down here. We're looking at
off of 111 and 270.
Yes, we're very close to landing a deal that would bring a warehouse to this area that would add another 800 permanent jobs to our workforce. So I think we have a lot of good things going on in Madison County compared to other areas. And once again, it's working together. You know, I keep saying this, you know, Madison County, we're right across the river from St. Louis. You know, and when people ask me where I'm from the St. Louis area, living in Illinois. I believe, and I firmly believe, the future of the St. Louis area is east. I think Madison, St. Clair County, Monroe County is going to be the future of the St. Louis area. And I think you're going to see a lot of good things in the future here.
We got about 5 minutes left, so I want to make sure that if we haven't covered an area you want to talk about, that you go ahead. What you just said, I think, is really important, and we've had this discussion before, and I think what you're saying is that here in Metro East, there's a lot of open space, whereas in the on the other side of the river, on the west side of the river, that much of that space is already used up.
And that's true. And I'll tell you what we have is you have a perfect system of, you have the barge traffic down the river, you got interstate systems second to none, you got, you know, the air, you got rail, you got everything you need to make this a logistic area for distribution. One of the facts that most people don't realize is about over 50% of the population in the United States lives within 700 miles of this area. So we can become the distribution hub here, which I think in a certain extent we have been. You know, I mean, we got plants, we got people like Hershey's, they're already located here, Procter & Gamble, that's already down at the Gateway Center. I mean, we have some very good things going on, and it's because you can come in here and distribute things to over half the nation. And I think that's helping both Madison, St. Clair County, Monroe County. This is the future, and there's a lot of good things going on.
We have to find a way so that people can earn enough money so that they can afford to buy those distributed goods. I think that's part of the real problem. Is there any other issues that in the last couple of minutes here that you wanted to mention?
Just real fast, you know, we are working through the process on the levies. You know,
is the Army Corps in any shape trying to cooperate?
You know, I think the problem with the Army Corps is that there's so much bureaucracy there that they have to go through so many levels to make a decision. It's very hard to make a decision. We are very concerned about public safety. I know they're very concerned about public safety. But we have to get these levies. We've got 156,000 people that live in the levy area, 56,000 jobs that need to be protected, and we want to try to get this done within the next 2 years. And we need to have the cooperation with the Corps of Engineers to get that done. And I have to be honest, it's been very tough to work with the Corps and FEMA, as you know, because there's just so much bureaucracy that you have to follow, and so many steps you have to go through on a federal level to get things done. We don't have time, and as they keep on studying issues, the levies, they're saying are deficient, but as long as they study, you're not fixing the levies. And it's mind-boggling what we go through. Maybe they're quite
as deficient as they want to, as they say. And just so the audience understands, the only reason they're deficient is because they redefined what deficiency was.
Yeah, and you're not supposed to have flood fighting since they had Katrina, the first, down there. But the sad thing is I think our levees are in better shape now than they were when we had a 350-year level flood, and we had a 200 level flood in 93 and 95.
Right.
I think our levees are in better shape today than they were back when that event happened. And that's not to say that we don't want to bring those up to, ultimately we want to have them up to a 500-year level, and that's what we are going to continue to work for. We've done everything locally. We have a sales tax in place, and we have our share of the money. We are going through the process. It looks like I think we're on time to have these done by the year 2015 before FEMA comes out with new maps, which is our goal. And if that happens, people down there are going to have protection from the levees. They're not going to have to go out and buy flood insurance if they don't want to. I still think they should have it, but it's not going to be a mandatory item.
And not as expensive.
And not as expensive.
If the map says that this is not like a critical area.
That is correct. So I think we're moving through the process. Les Sturman has done a tremendous job on the levees. Forrest used to be with East West Gateway. I think that is if I could look at anything that we've been successful with locally, it's on the levees on a local level. If we could just get the Corps of Engineers and others to cooperate with us, we're going to be better off.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your informative discussion here today. I very much appreciate your coming and talking to us today.
Okay, appreciate being here today.
I've been speaking with Alan Dunstan. He's the chairman of the board in Madison County. Very interesting discussion. This levy issue, if you didn't see the Les Sturman tapes, go to YouTube and take a look. Thank you very much. See you next time.